Welcome to our Punchestown Festival preview here at the Alex Hotel. On stage
Ladies
tonight,
and gentlemen,
Walsh,
you're very
Robbie
welcome
Power,
to our
Punchestown Festival preview here at the Alex Hotel. On stage tonight, Ruby Walsh, Robbie Power, Johnny Murphy, Johnny Ward, John Duggan, and Ger Gilroy. So that's Robbie, Ruby, Ger, Johnny, and John. But first, they've been sweating it up in the parade ring. It's Johnny Ward and Ger Gilroy.
How you all doing? Thanks very much for coming out tonight. And Punchestown is my favourite festival, Johnny. We used to get a half day to go over one of the days. It was like a proper, because I'm from Athy, Punchestown. It's our local one.
Yeah,
that's why we love it. It was actually like a proper day off school to go racing.
Yeah, they've changed the times now, so you don't even need to take a half day. They've turned into kind of an evening meeting.
Yeah, we were not happy about that.
Yeah, but it's everyone. The amount of people from there always tell me they skip school or they kind of feign sickies to go to Punchestown, so it definitely matters in the locality. Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of your experience of Galway, I presume, growing up.
Yeah, I mean,
skipping school and pretending to be sick.
Galway takes place in the summer, so it's kind of handy in that regard. But no, Punchestown's a great meeting, and you know, we've a few horses maybe that might be having, maybe a few jockeys having their last Punchestown hurrah, who knows.
Who are you talking about
this
there?
Is going to be, I'd say definitely one big jockey will be having his last Punchestown. I don't know who that is, and he doesn't either, I'd say. You know, it's that type of, few of our great jockeys are coming towards the latter stages of their career.
I like the way you're writing off half of our guests tonight before they even come on stage.
Robbie's young enough, fella, he'll be all right. But no, so there's definitely, and obviously Faugheen, it could well be the last time we see him, but you know, it's just, it's a great festival, and Irish racing is still the creme de la creme, really.
All right, you're not here to listen to us this evening. You're here to listen to our special guests. Please give it up for Robbie Power and Ruby Walsh. Have a seat, Johnny.
Good start.
You're very welcome. Hi, Johnny. Have a seat. So, Ruby, I wasn't going to talk about the retirement conversation that's following you around, but Johnny Ward has brought us straight up off the bat. You're not going to retire. Surely.
I think he showed he's all right the other day anyway in the Irish National.
That's Johnny Ward. He seems to know more about my career than I do.
It's a good job I'm sitting in the middle, isn't it?
You celebrated the National in like a proper outpouring of emotion. It kind of was reminiscent a little bit of Tiger Woods winning the Masters there.
Jesus. Yeah, but look, last year I broke my leg twice. November, missed all the way till Cheltenham, was back for a week, broke it again, and missed everything, Aintree, most of Cheltenham, all of Punchestown, came back for Galway, got hurt in Killarney, missed September and October again. You know, even with this season alone, Ger, I've only ridden for just under half of the season. So like when you spend as long as I've been injured in the last couple of years, and you look at it, you watch what's going on, mentally that's hard. It's hard to watch it. It's hard to watch something you love doing, and you miss it, and when you get back doing it, you enjoy it.
More this time than you would have done previously, because
I'd never been injured for 18 months before, thankfully. So yeah, but the longer you're out, the more you're watching, the more you realise how much you miss it.
Yeah. Did you have any doubt that you were going to get back? Like any sense at any point, any fear that this wasn't going to...
No fear of coming back. It just gets longer and it doesn't get any easier. And mentally it's hard. It is. You're watching and you're wondering, and then when you come back, every Tom, Dick and Harry says you should be retired, and they're writing you off, and you have to try harder and work harder and prove yourself all over again. But that's sport. No one is guaranteed a place in any team, and you have to work to get your place.
Did you have to change your approach coming back then, or did you have to like think about that kind of stuff and address that stuff, because that's going on constantly?
No, luckily I'm mentally fairly tough. I'm hard, and the more somebody points a finger, the more I will try to prove them wrong, and I will prove them wrong. That's me.
And you enjoy that?
I do, yeah.
Because a lot of people wonder
someone
about
points
that.
one finger at me, I love pointing two back at them.
Yeah. Were people pointing fingers along the way? Like, are you aware of that? In some ways, do you go... You
don't have to be aware of it. I'm not blind or stupid either.
Right, so do you seek it out? That's what I wonder.
No. You don't have to seek it out. The world we live in, everyone has an opinion, and everyone has an opinion that you're supposed to listen to. I know we live in a democracy, so I have the right not to listen to anybody's opinion, and that's what I do.
That's fair enough. Robbie, how are you getting on?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
What kind of a season has it been for you?
Yeah, it's been good. Cheltenham was a bit tough. I struggled with injuries through Cheltenham and no winners in Cheltenham, but took a couple of weeks off, got me back started in a very good entry, and Fairyhouse was decent as well, so looking forward to Punchestown now.
Do you get a proper end of season? Because we were talking about this being the official end of the National Hunt season, and obviously like it's not really a traditional end of season the way it is for a football team who go off and sit on the beach for a while and come back a couple of months later and get into pre-season. You'll probably be riding the week after next, and it's like the start of next year. So
that's the only sport where professionals don't really get a break. Now this year is the first time we've pushed it through that the meeting in Downride on the bank holiday Monday and Ballinrobe on the Tuesdays for riders that have ridden less than 15 winners in the last year, so it gives them a chance, because there's not many opportunities for them in Punchestown either, so it gives them a chance, and it gives us 3 or 4 days off after Punchestown, which is we're lucky to get. Yeah,
much needed. And not to talk about the age thing again, but like you are definitely at a stage of your career where you're one of the senior men in the weigh room. That's a polite way of putting it.
I'll be the senior man in the weigh room for a good few more years to come too.
Right, that's good. Do you find you're getting better at the fitness and minding your body and knowing when to rest? Because it's interesting, take a couple of weeks off, get the back right. Like, would you have ridden through?
I'd say you hadn't much choice, had you?
No, I refused to go for a scan before Cheltenham. I got the fall on the Sunday, and I actually wasn't that bad on the Monday and Tuesday, but I rode Tuesday and I was a bit sore Tuesday and worse on Wednesday. I went for the scan on Saturday and I had 2 fractured wings on the vertebrae, L3 and L4, but the next thing was get back for entry. So as Ruby was talking about the mental side of it, it's a lot more painful sitting home on the couch watching horses winning races that you should be riding. And if I'd have been sitting home on the couch watching Super Sunday and Lost in Translation winning, it would have been a lot tougher mentally than physical. The mental pain is a lot worse than the physical pain.
When you go out riding, are you able to almost adrenaline get you through that if you're not 100%? That you just forget about whatever is ailing you as well?
I always go out 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. You get patched up and you get going, but when you're going out physically, you feel 100% going out. I was 100% the whole way through entry until I got the fall in the net.
You mean you kind of cheat your mind to make you feel that way? Because
I took my surgeon's advice. I went swimming every day. I was fit. It's a big sport, and a lot. It's not just for yourself. You're doing it for the trainers, for the owners as well. They were putting a lot of money into the game, but you have to be right. So I did everything in my power to make sure that when the Thursday of entry came around, that I was fit and able to ride the horse to the best of my ability, and that's what you have to do. That's what you're paid to do.
Yeah, and even if you don't feel that way, you kind of have to fake it a little bit, do you?
Well, you make sure you feel right. If you don't feel right, you don't turn up. But you make sure that you're 100% by the Thursday.
Yeah, because I'd say you guys ride through injuries quite a bit, like niggling little injuries. Like, we work obviously with Kevin Kilban. He was like, I was never fully fit for a game for a good 7 years of my career, but I didn't miss a single game. There's races where presumably you're not at 100%, but you kind of need to talk yourself into it.
Yeah, but
use your experience.
I think the jockeys are much more aware now of, and mentally, they know much more about the injuries, and there's much more better treatment out there for injuries. I mean, Ruby the same. We've been to Santry, treated up there, and taken advice from your surgeons as well. That we're much more aware of how to get back fitter than I was when I started riding, and definitely when you started riding.
Oh yeah, definitely. But even the strength and conditioning programs and things like that, it's come so far. Definitely from when I started riding. But yeah, I can understand what Kevin Kilban means. Like, because you're stiff or sore doesn't mean you're injured. For a jockey, like, even different bones could be cracked, but they're irrelevant to riding a horse. And that's if you're mentally tough enough to overcome that bit of awkwardness, away you go. But anybody who has gotten to the top in sport is mentally strong enough to overcome that. You have to be able to push yourself through a bit of pain to achieve what you want to achieve.
Did you know you could do that at 16? Like, did you know that, or is that something you acquire as you go along?
You think you're invincible when you're a kid, and then you get broke up and you realise you're not. But yeah, you get more. You get more used to it, but you see other lads doing it. Like, I remember watching AP and what he would ride through, and then you realised I have to do that too.
He was the one who set the standard for you, because
he was the champion. Like, when I started, Charlie sort of retired after a couple of years, and Richard Dunwoody had to retire through injury. Adrian Maguire was gone, so yeah, AP was setting the standard and what he was willing to ride through. I've watched jockeys ride through, ride with injuries and grin and bear it and get on with it, and I think it's a great trait in a human being, that they're willing to do that. They're not looking for the easy way out at any stage.
You have to acquire that skill, though, right? That's not something you were just born with. You had to watch that and go, I have to do that.
I think it's how much you want something. You're either soft or you're hard. It's how much you want it. And if you're soft, you don't last long as a jockey anyway.
Yeah.
Was it Tommy Tracy when he was involved in, I think he was chasing Charlie Swan for the title one season? He broke his ankle and rode on for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. He wouldn't get it dealt with just because.
Yeah, you would, because you can, depends on whereabouts it's broken in your ankle, but you can strap it, tighten it in the boot, and if you're riding on the ball of your foot, your ankle doesn't move. I mean, that's the difference between a jockey and other sports people. Your body is static. It's a contraction of your muscles, not an extension. So it's a complete difference to 90% of other sports. Maybe snooker is the only other one. But, you don't move. The more moving you're doing, the more you're doing wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I want to talk about winning and how you plot a course through a race. Robbie, talk to us about having Ruby as a rival in a race. How aware are you of him, of other jockeys? Like, what are you looking for in the middle of a race?
You have to ride your own race, and you're wary of who's around you a lot of the time. You have a plan in your head going out of what way you're going to ride your own horse. Obviously, you have to ride the horse you're riding to the best of his ability. You can't ride him to another horse's ability. So you concentrate on riding your own horse first, and then you make sure you're in the right position, try and get in the right position to challenge. Whether it's Ruby coming or Barry or Paul Townend, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of good jockeys out there, but
they all have different styles, though, right?
They all have different styles, but you're always riding your own horse to run to the best of his ability. You're not going to change your tactics to ride to suit because you're afraid of Ruby or whatever. You have to ride your own horse in a race. You do know styles of jockeys, how well they're going. If I see Ruby starting to move his hands and he's sitting there looking pretty, to the likes of Johnny Ward now thinks he's going well, and I know he's not going well because I see Ruby's hands starting to go. I know he's holding on to nothing, so I want to get him off the bridle if I can, or take him on because I know he's struggling. Charlie Swan was a great one when I started riding. You'd see Charlie, if you were going right-handed around Punchestown, you'd see the little right hand starting to wiggle away, and he'd be looking around over his left shoulder, and to the naked eye it looked like he was cantering, but you knew that he was squeezing everything out of that horse that he could.
And again, that's the type of thing that you acquire through experience, being in races with these lads 6 times a day, every day for 10 years.
Yeah, of course it is. Sure, it's knowing different riders. As Paul Carby used to always, he looked like he was going very, very well in the horse, and yet when he got down and started pushing, you knew there was nothing left to, that horse had nothing left to give. Paul had got every ounce out of him before he got down and started pushing. And to the person standing on the stand, it looks like, why didn't he hit him harder? As Paul always said when he got bit in Archibald, he didn't hit him because he'd given everything.
Yeah.
So you know different jockey styles. The more you ride with them, the more you know them. Yeah.
Is Ruby one of the hardest to kind of know when he is cajoling? That's it's kind of seamless the whole way, or?
I'd say the hardest. There's everyone has their own, but sometimes Ruby's struggling and next thing the horse gets a second win, but that's because he's given it a chance. He hasn't gone for when he shouldn't have gone for it. He's given it a chance to get its wind and come again. So sometimes I have gone past him and he's come back and beat you. But that's, you get to know these things as you go along.
The jockey situation, I know it's kind of taking the piss for the start that you're getting on a bit, but there is a bit of a gap then. There isn't necessarily an awful, big golden generation of jockeys coming through. Like, I would say that the golden generation that we've had now is something that wouldn't come around every so often.
Does that happen in all sports, though?
Cyclical.
That they're grouped together.
Yeah, and there's that group then smother the group behind it and not give it a chance to prosper. I think that can. I think that happens in all sports. You get a good team and the young lads can't get into the team because the 23, 4, 5-year-olds are that good. The lads that are 17, 18, 19 end up not making the cut and go somewhere else. That happens in racing too. That's what happens. You get a bunch of jockeys together that don't give anybody else a chance, and it misses a generation because of that.
That makes sense. To your style,
most things usually do.
Well, they don't always. No. Your style. People were talking about it recently, Ruby, about your internal clock. You kind of, what pace to go at a race. Is that true? Is that a real thing that you kind of decide?
You try to, because pace is a huge thing in racing. People get caught up in positions, in positioning, being the first 3. That's great if they're going the right speed, but you want to be in the first 3 when they're going too fast. it doesn't work. So pace is far more important in horse racing than actual positioning, and that's where horse racing relates probably to athletics. And even if you go back to the London Olympics in 2012 and you watch David Rudisha in the 800 metres, and he jumped and he changed the style of 800 metre running. So he decided he was going to make the running and go from end to end. And he set the fractions that he could run. But in doing so, he dragged the next 6 athletes inside the Olympic record time. So it's about pace, it's not about positioning. And racing is the same, it's about pace. If you go too fast early, you won't finish. You go too slow early, you won't catch up. It's about pace, so you have to try and work out what sort of fractions you should be running. And you won't always get it right, but you should know in your own head how fast your horse is capable of running the race.
What horse you're riding judges the pace that you're going in the race.
Yeah.
You make a horse go faster than he's able early on in the race, you won't get home.
How do you know, though? That's the question.
That's the feel the horse gives you. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be riding him.
Okay, explain that to us, though.
It's feel, but how do you explain it? It's like, how does Messi spot a pass that the lad playing for Bohemians can't? It's the same thing. It's one level to another. You ride a horse that's... If you're making a run in your national hunt race and you're clocking 12-second furlongs, you're going too fast. Simple as that. Because you're all right. Maybe in Roscommon on quick ground in the summer, you want to be hitting those fractions.
Are you thinking of that? Are you counting?
I would have always, as a kid, when I was in front. Yeah, because your biggest fear is you cannot win if you go too fast. That's the only way you can't win. You can go too slow and win.
Markers.
Yeah, you would count them in bumpers. I would have counted them when I was making the running because my fear was always going too fast.
Right.
You go too fast, your horse won't finish. You can't win. So
was that the first thing? That was the first thing when you started racing. You were like, this is the bit of information that I've got that I'm going to base my style on.
Yeah, it was all about pace. It's about pace, and you can line up and think you're going to jump out handy in a race and have to go on a furlong, think these are going too hard, and you'll find yourself 3/4 the way back through the group. And that's when you become aware of who's around you, because you might think, I think they're going too fast, and you look around to see who's around you, and all of a sudden the guys around you are Robert or Davy Russell and Barry Geraghty. You think, well, they all must think these are going too quick, because you'll find the good lads are around you. I've often found that when I was going to be handy on a horse and then thinking, I think they're going too fast. And when you look around, you'll find the good riders have gravitated into the same area.
Yeah.
Because they all think they're going too fast.
Do you get frustrated by when pundits will say on the races where a jockey goes off mad in front and you kind of ignore him and he ends up winning by sort of a diminishing 5 lengths, and somebody will go, oh, them jockeys should be ashamed of themselves? And to me, it's always just a race that transpired that one horse just maintained a gallop that the rest weren't actually able to go, because if you went after him, you would have probably lost second place.
No, because somebody that would come out with that statement most probably wouldn't be someone whose opinion I would be hugely respecting. So, if you get what I mean, you're not going to hear AP on ITV saying it, or someone whose opinion you're really going to respect. They might say, look, you got that wrong, which you can do because we're all human. Of course you're going to make mistakes. The boys got that wrong. They should have followed earlier. But they're never going to say you should be ashamed of yourself. At the end of the day, you made a mistake. If you're going to be ashamed of making mistakes, you wouldn't get out of bed.
Is that one of the biggest fears in a race, where there's something gone off in front and you're like, should I go? I'm in two minds here.
But no, the biggest mistake you can make is riding 2 races into one. So if you're dropped in and something does jump out and it goes off in front, you're riding the race you're riding. You have to hope then that you get lucky, but stay riding the race you're riding. If you change tack then to ride a different race, you're going to get beat anyway. So you're going to need a bit of luck, yeah, but that's doing your homework. You're hoping, like, the guy who's dropped out last is not at fault there. It's the guys who've sat second and third that haven't followed the one in front. They need to follow the one in front.
Yeah.
The guys in third and fourth maybe could push them a bit closer, or fifth even, but the guys behind that, that's the way the race sets up. It's like guys get away in cycling. Sometimes the peloton get them back, sometimes they don't. But you know what I mean, when the die is cast, you have to make the best of the situation you're in. But everyone's only human. Mistakes will be made.
The confidence of the experience teaches you to ride one race, not 2 races. And that sometimes there needs to be a bit of bravery in that, not to follow somebody who's taken a lead, who you think...
That's the great thing about when you're riding. I ride mainly for Jessie, and she never ties you down to instructions. You're the same with Willie.
Yeah.
You can't be tied down to instructions. We all have a plan going out. We'll talk about a race going out. A lot of the time that plan will change after going a furlong, and you'll be doing something different. And I think Jessie has confidence in when I'm not doing plan A that she's sitting there going, oh well, this is not working out, they're going too quick or they're going too slow, he's making the run. And so you can't go out and be tied down to what you have to do. You go out with a plan, and if plan A is not working out, you have to quick straight away change and go to plan B and sometimes plan C.
So you do change the pace sometimes if from your race depending on what's going on, because obviously you have to adapt to the conditions. What's going through your head when you're blowing up your own plan? Is it like, shit, I have to do something different here? Or is it like...
No, it's happening quicker than that. It's reaction. So you're going on reactions. So you get below at the start and you think that your plan was to be sort of 4th or 5th or just behind the pace, but all of a sudden the couple of front runners you thought there might have been are changing tactics and you spot an opportunity. I'm going to get a soft lead here, so you jump out and sit in front. Now, when you change tactics or the plan that you left the parade ring with, when it goes wrong, you have to walk back in and put your hands up and say, I'm sorry, I made a decision, I thought I'd do A and B, it didn't work out, it's my fault, I'm sorry. And then people either accept your apology or they don't, but that's all you can do. You're making a decision, it's a reaction, it's sport, it's about reactions. But look, sometimes you do something that wasn't planned and it comes off and you're a hero, and sometimes you do something that wasn't planned and it goes backwards and you're a villain. But that, you have to make decisions.
You can't, you'll never be a good jockey if you don't have the freeness to make them decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be able to, and the trainers have to have trust in you going out that you mightn't do plan A, you're going to do plan B, and that's when you're at your best.
When David Mullins did what he did on Kenboy at Leopardstown, do you remember what you were thinking at the time in that? Do you remember watching Ruby and saying...
I do. I remember thinking there goes my chance. Bell's Hill wasn't 100% fit, and the slowly run race was suiting me, and when he injected pace into it, I knew it was going to stretch my fitness.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking. This injection of pace isn't going to suit me. But yeah, that's...
It was interesting that Willie said he was thinking at that moment he said, I was thinking of the bollock I was going to give him when he came in.
Yeah, but I'm riding for Willie a long time. He might think of the bollock he's going to give him, but he actually wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah.
So he can think about it, but then David will come back in and say, look, that's why I did it, and Willie accept it and move on. There's always another day, and there is always another day in sport. But if you don't take risks, if you play safe all your life, there's two different ways of riding. If you ride not to lose, or you ride to win. And it's the same in every sport. You either play not to lose, or you play to win. But if you're playing not to lose, there's a big chance you get beat. But at least you play to win. You have no regrets.
Does it matter how well fancy the horse is in terms of your decision making, or do you always just ride to win? Because there's much more pressure when you're on a heavy odds-on favourite in a big race at Cheltenham than there is.
I think there's less. The shorter it is, the better chance it has of winning.
So that's how you think about it.
That's how I think about it. Yeah. It couldn't be short enough in my mind. If you're going out in a 1 to 12 shot, a lot of people have made a 1 to 12 for a reason. There's a big chance it's going to win. When you're going out in a 25 to 1 shot, there's no pressure, but you've a good bit less chance of winning too. So you do the maths on it.
There's no pressure for a reason.
There's no pressure for a reason because you have no chance.
Okay, that's a fair point. A reminder: tonight's all about the Punchestown Festival, which features 39 races, 12 Grade 1s, and over €3 million in prize money. It runs from the 30th of April to the 4th of May. You can book your tickets now on punchestown.com. Punchestown, it's your kind of town. Let's talk about some of the major influences in your careers. We talked about Jessica Harrington having trust in you. How did that relationship come about, and what is the hallmark of a relationship of trust? Like, when did you earn that trust? When did you begin to kind of feel like, yeah, I can go out here and we can have that conversation afterwards, even if it doesn't go well, or if it does go well?
Yeah, I suppose you have to earn the trust. I started off with the late great Paddy Mullins, and Paddy, I don't think, when I was a £7 claim, I got out on my first ride in Leopardstown in a 50 grand handicap hurdle. Paddy didn't give me instructions, and walking across to the horse, and Tom gave me a small bit of advice what to do, and then the next day I rode the horse, I asked the boss, I said, well boss, what should I do? And he goes, if you're looking for instructions, I must have the wrong man riding them.
Right.
So while we always had a conversation, Jessie always had a conversation with me about what we were riding. She never tied you down to any instructions. And I suppose the more winners you got and the more experience you got, as Jessie always said, and she's dead right in it as well, that you're not born a great jockey. You have to become a good jockey, and you have to make mistakes. And to be good, you have to make mistakes and all these sort of things. I've made plenty of mistakes over the years. As I'm sure Ruby did as well, but that's part of being a jockey, and you learn by them mistakes. And I'd come back in and say, I'm sorry, I made a balls of that or whatever, and she'd say, grand, you'd go away and the next morning we have a chat about it, and you just don't make the same mistake again, and you live and learn from it.
You had fairly big success early on in your career. I don't know if it's that early on in your career, but certainly winning the National and the second time you ever ride it. Is that the turning point in your career, or is getting the ride in the National on a horse that might potentially win it? I'm kind of trying to think back at a point when you'd have that sense of confidence that actually, I'm going to go back and give the trainer the exact instructions here, and this is a relationship of equals.
Yeah, I don't know. But the Grand National that year when I won the Grand National was huge for me because I'd had a bad season with injury. I'd been out for most of the season. Things weren't going well, and Gordon had asked me a good while before if Jason Maguire wasn't available. I was riding the horse, and Gordon wasn't. I don't know if he probably was aware that I was having a bad season, but at the same time he had trusted me going out and tried the horse, and he gave me the same instructions he still gives his jockeys today. So you know yourself. And that's what he said to me getting up on the horse. And the horse had been around there before. He'd actually won over the national fences with Ruby. He won the Beecher Chase on him for Paul Nichols.
That's right, yeah.
So he had experience out there as well, which was great confidence for me, knowing I was going on a horse that could jump around anyway. And I think then after that I won the champion hurdle in Punchestown for Harry Rogers a fortnight later on a horse called Silent Oscar. And that was one again where I'd say if I didn't win, Harry would have bollocked me from Punchestown back to his yard, because halfway in the back straight there was no pace on. I kicked on for home, he'd beaten Max Joy, kicked on, turned out the back and held on and beat Max Joy half a length. And it was just, I thought to myself, this horse is going to outstay Max Joy, I better start stretching him. And it was turning plan A into plan B, and that was just, Harry didn't tell me what to do going out, but I had the freedom to make the decision, and I made the right decision on that occasion.
Would you have made that right decision without having had the confidence to win the National?
Possibly not. Possibly wouldn't have. I don't know. I'd like to think I would have anyway, because it was the right decision. So yeah. I don't know, but
you had confidence at that stage.
Yeah, huge confidence at that stage, and I think that was probably it was a big Grade 1 winner after on the back of winning the Grand National, and then you go into the summer campaign, and everyone wanted to use you, and I had a good start to that summer as well. So I'd say that was kind of, if I hadn't won the Grand National that year, the career could have gone either way.
Does it make much difference, winning the National in terms of people actually wanting you? Because trainers win big races and they don't get any horse.
It did back in them days, and trainers, but that was back in 2007, and back in them days you were banging in the middle of the Celtic Tiger, and if a trainer, look how many horses Gordon got to win the Grand National. So back in them days there was much more. I got an awful lot more rides out. The same when I won the Galway Plate in 2003, I got an awful lot more calls to ride horses. I think for the next few weeks I was flat out trainers ringing up that hadn't used you. So but back then, now it's not so much because things are a bit tighter, but back in them days there was huge more horse training, maybe, and more trainers, I don't know, but there was more opportunity. Yeah.
Ruby, what about your relationship with Willie? How did that start? You started riding out with Joseph O'Brien, with Aidan O'Brien, is that right?
Started actually with Noah Mead.
Right.
Spent a summer in Olds, then I spent a summer with Aidan, and then I was went back to school, rode a horse for Willie in the stole. I think I had 9 or 10 something in an amateur flat race in the stole, and I claimed 7 off it, finishing over Crimson City, I think her name was. And then a couple of weeks later, Leopardstown in November, I was actually at home riding the pony, and my sister Jennifer appeared down the field in a jeep. She said, Willie wants you to go to Leopardstown to ride one in the bumper, he can't do the weight in it. So I went to Leopardstown to ride a mare in the bumper called Young Fenora, and she won. I claimed 7 off her, she had 11-4, free mare, and that's where it started really. I rode her in a couple of winners' bumpers then, she didn't win any more. And then that summer, Willie was coming to the end of his career. He was chaired the champion amateur with Francis Crowley. And I started in Willie's that summer.
When you say she was free, do you remember going out that day thinking when you came in, I think Willie spoke about for your youth at the time that you were able to manage a mare of that kind of quirk. Do you remember anything about the race in terms of thinking, yeah, that was a good achievement?
She had blue colours with grey sleeves, and that's about all I could tell you about it. It's 23 years ago, and I've had a fair few bangs in the head since. But she was a little chestnut mare. But
do you remember Willie's reaction?
She beat Lady Daisy, actually, I think. I think Adrian O'Shea rode Lady Daisy, was second. But I don't remember much about it, I'll tell you the truth.
Do you remember the feeling? The win?
No.
No? at this stage? No, so there's no sense of this being a drug that you're suddenly addicted to, that you want to go and do this again. It's like
it was no different. I can remember the first winner I rode in the second. Then I rode a bumper winner for Mickey Flynn. Was my third winner, but she could have been my fifth winner. I don't.
Okay.
It doesn't stand out as anything other than
this is what I do now.
Yeah. Well, it was what I do now, but yeah, but winning was you still get a kick out of winning, but it's just a bit long ago, Jar.
Yeah, fair enough. And when did you realise that the relationship with Willie was going to be career defining, and that actually, you two were going to have this very special partnership, which was going to rewrite racing history?
I don't know. I went to Willie's that summer, went back to school and finished my leaving cert, started in Willie's. I was champion amateur that year. Then I started full time in Willie's, so I did my leaving, and I've worked there ever since. But I don't know, Willie Mullins is, when I started there was 54 horses. There was 7 or 8 staff. It wasn't what Close Sutton is now.
Yeah.
Could I foresee Willie getting to where he is? No. We had loads of little small summer fillies. I think there was one chaser in the yard. It was a very different place. It was Willie was, it was a business. He was selling bumper horses to make ends meet. I don't think if you had a crystal ball you could have seen where the two of us ended up.
So what happened?
I don't know. He kept expanding. He kept reinvesting in the place. He kept growing. He got more owners. Then he got bigger owners with more money, and he was able to invest. And he was a very good judge of a horse, so he bought good horses. But I don't know how it got to where it is.
It's this unstoppable momentum now, but obviously it seems that one of the kind of great unknowns is that his ability to judge a horse. That you'll hear stories of there being horses in the yard that other people in the yard will be like, why are we keeping this guy around? Are we not, like, is he not taking up space for somebody?
That's only to prove a point. When myself or David or Patrick or Paul or Danny or David would say one is no good, well, if Willie has to keep it for 4 years, he's going to win a race with it. That's just a stubbornness. He's going to prove you wrong, whatever happens.
Okay.
So we've got to the point now that you nearly work on reverse psychology.
That guy's brilliant.
That this horse isn't too bad, so he'll say it's not much good and move it on. But that's that's turning it over. But
his father was the same. Paddy was the exact same. I rode a horse one day in a race, and I said to him, "Boss, I says, you'll struggle to win a race with this." He says, "I'll prove you wrong."
Yeah.
3 years later, won a 95 inch or more.
Yeah, but he won with it.
He won with it, yeah. And he wouldn't forget either. He'd tell you, "I told you I'd win a race with that."
But that's why they're so good. They win with every horse they have, bar Johnny's.
You're in some form tonight.
I'm telling you. It's the first day was his best day, wasn't it? But that's what they do. They win with they place their horses in the right races. And Willie got not bigger owners with more money, invested, bought better horses, and won with them. And that's how you get bigger. And he kept expanding. He kept reinvesting. And every time he reinvested, it didn't automatically get better.
Yeah.
Like he went from 50 to 80, things were static for a while, and then it improved. And the same when he went to 100 and 120 and 150 and to where he is now. It didn't always just take off.
It's kind of.
I think, sorry, Ger, I think with Willie as well, we'll say he could have 6 or 7 horses that are eligible for one race, and if Willie has fairly, pliable owners that are kind of happy for a horse to be entered and multiple entered, Willie can decide that I'm going to narrow this down to whichever of these I think is either working best or suits the race best, and then he has that option. So I think there is strength in the sense of having numbers. It was like in the Gold Cup where he had 4 in the race or whatever, 3 of them were gone straight away and he still ended up winning it. And he had an early setback in the Irish National. A pair of brown eyes went early, he still had 4 of the first 5. But even when they're not running the same race, if you have owners that are able to sort of go along with the master plan, and it's hard to contradict Willie Mullins, he might have 7 left backs where another lad has 1.
Willie considers that a huge part of training, though. He considers where the horse is going to be entered, where the horse is going to run. Willie considers that a huge part of training and takes it very seriously. And then when owners would have ideas about where they want horses to go or whatever, Willie considers that's his job. That's what you're paying him to do, and that's what he does brilliantly.
That's the chess of the whole thing.
That's the chess of the whole thing, and he plays the chess better than anyone.
Yeah.
Like Paddy would have obviously had his Paddy's biggest obstacle in his career was probably Dawn One's owner, really, in many respects. And I think Paddy thought horses were fine, owners were not a lot of the time. And Willie's very well able to deal with owners, even if the horse is as shite as the one that I had.
Do you want to be a trainer when you in the next phase of your career? Is that something that interests you?
I don't know. I think training is extremely different. Riding is very difficult. Riding is easy. You get off in the bread ring and walk away. It's not your issue. I don't have to go to the bar and have a drink with the owner when it's finished 17th and try and tell him that it'll be all right tomorrow. And by the way, I have 2 more Licky to buy. I don't have to do that. I'm just a jockey. So I don't know. Have I the people skills?
You do.
I don't know. And you look at it, and whatever way you look at it, how viable is training as a business in this country? You see the amount of trainers that have gone out of business.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jar. You never say never, but right now it wouldn't be for me anyway.
Yeah.
Like Martin Brassil, like how many horses would Martin Brassil have if he was happy and able to talk shite to people after a race? Do you know what I mean? It's just not his game.
I don't know. I always found Martin very straightforward, to tell you the truth. But it's expansion. It's investment. But you look at Martin Brassil, from winning at number 6 Alverdi to getting himself back to where he is this year with City
Island.
I mean, that's endurance for you. To stick at it and keep going and come back across him. That's what 90% of trainers in Ireland are. You have Gordon and Willie and Henry and Jesse and Noel Meade is resurgent, but the rest of them, the majority of trainers,
It's a struggle.
it's a struggle.
Yeah. Robbie, you've kind of been there. You were talking earlier on about the boom times, and it seems to be that what's happened at racing is it's far more sustainable in Ireland now than it was when it was based just on the boom times. And you've kind of had a front row seat for that. Do you notice that the sport has lifted in terms of how the average punter kind of pays attention to racing far more often than just the Grand National in Cheltenham?
I suppose it has. I think the festivals have become bigger, and Punchestown especially is the biggest one in Ireland now, and it's up challenging Cheltenham, Aintree. Then you have the new Dublin Racing Festival, which is a great initiative as well, and there's more throughout the year. I think there's room for another one there pre-Christmas somewhere. You have the Fairy House one, the Drimore meeting. So there's nearly once a month or once every 6 weeks there's some sort of festival on, and national racing is much more attractive anyway, definitely for
Are you
me.
aware of that? Do you feel that the sport has been growing, or is that just something that maybe it's not true?
You do, because I think there's more racing now than there was when I started. Physically you feel it because you're on the go the whole year round. You get 2 weeks off at the end of June when the Irish Derby's on around that time. So and Jesse's yard has expanded. Willie's, as Ruby said, a lot of them have expanded, but I feel it is definitely busier now than when I started.
Yeah, Ruby, what's your take on that? 'Cause,
I think it is, but I think it's a great product. I think the prize money that's on offer in Ireland makes it slightly more sustainable for owners than it does in the UK. I mean, if a horse, you're lucky enough to have a horse in Ireland and he can win and be placed. He can win once and be placed a couple of times. He will nearly cover himself for the year. In the UK, that doesn't really happen. The prize money is so poor. At least in Ireland, with the prize money that's on offer, there's a chance that you can sustain the horses you have through prize money, and that's a big incentive for owners. As regards the other aspects, yeah, I'd say the festivals are probably swamping the crowds at other meetings, but that's good because the festivals are getting bigger and better and stronger, and are getting better attendances. Like there was a huge crowd at National on Monday. That was the weather. No doubt about it. 12,500 people was a huge crowd at it.
better rather than last year, all right.
Yeah, but the weather is definitely
It matters, yeah.
a key to a lot of sporting events. But yeah, I think a lot of the festivals are growing. The midweek meetings are probably struggling a little bit, but they're being sustained by the TV right money.
The TV rights money, and Ruby spoke about Britain faces a serious issue with regard to horse racing, not only from the animal rights stuff, but from the fact that it's going to be very, very hard to fund it the way things are going. Prize money is already very, very poor. It's completely it's absolute economic suicide to own a horse of low grade in Britain, really, unless you really fancy gambling on them. And with the way that the fixed odds betting machines terminals have been slowed down by the government over there, betting shops are closing, obviously, because people are going online. British racing faces a serious issue, and you even see the last couple of days how small the fields are. Now, that's a lot to do with ground as well, but it's going to be a major issue. And
it can saturate a product too, Johnny.
Yeah.
And if you...
Too much rubbish.
It can. And not even too much of anything is not good, but I mean, you can definitely be too much racing. And in England, for my money, there is too much racing. And if you had a Punchestown Festival every week, by the fourth week no one would go. There has to be highlights, and you go from Punchestown and it's the Derby and it's the Galway and it moves on. But if you had a highlight every week,
yeah,
all of a sudden it becomes a low light, not a highlight.
No, totally. We did want to talk about your 2017. There was a fairly titanic battle at Punchestown that ended an amazing season for you, Robbie. This was Sizing John. We've got a couple of pictures here, I think, of you guys going to the last. I think, Ruby, you're on Jack Adam, is that right?
Yeah.
What happens?
Jack Adam headbutted the last. He should have fallen, shouldn't he?
So, Robbie, this is the end of like an amazing 3-month period where Sizing John wins in Cheltenham and then in Aintree again, is it?
No, he won the Irish Gold Cup in Leopardstown. Then he went to Cheltenham, and then he won in the Punchestown Gold Cup.
So it's actually like 5 months of very sustained.
5 or 6 in a row.
He won. That was his 4th win in a row. He started off the season in Leopardstown at Christmas. He was second to Duvan. Then we stepped up to 2.5 in the Kinloch Bray. He won in Thurles, and then 3 Grade 1s Irish Gold Cup in Leopardstown. Can't remember what he beat in that. I think could have been Dom Poley or something. And then went and won the Gold Cup in Cheltenham, and then the Punchestown Gold Cup. It was an unbelievable achievement from the horse and from Jesse as well. I don't think it's something that'll be done again for a long time. I don't think many horses will be asked to do it.
No,
to win them 3. They're quite close together. For a staying chaser takes a lot more time to recover than a 2-mile chaser. And they're quite close together for a staying chaser to be asked to attempt the 3 of them. So it's something I think that race in Punchestown was probably the best race I ever rode it. We went a proper gallop that day.
I don't think so.
Coney Green. But the guts he showed after the season he had, like, because he looked beaten at one stage that year.
He felt beaten the whole way around. He didn't feel as good as he was in Punchestown or in Cheltenham, and he pulled off his shoe as well. He just didn't feel better at all until Jack and him made a mistake at the last, and then he put his head down, and Sizing John actually missed the second last as well. Didn't up second last great. But when Ruby's horse missed the last, he put his head down and battled well.
How much does a race like the Coney Gree Gold Cup that he won take out of them horses, or the Gold Cup, we'll say, that Denman won? How much does a really grueling Gold Cup take out of a horse going forward?
Well, that race took a lot out of the 3 of them, because they've won 1 race between the 3 of them since.
Yeah, but Coney Gree had gotten injured.
He was coming back.
Tendon injury, and came back. That's funny you say about it being such a good race. I remember turning down the back going after Coney Gree, and David Mullins said to me, "Oh, he can't keep going." And I said, the reply to him was, "He will keep going." I said, "He's a Gold Cup horse. This is a Gold Cup gallop." That's how fast we were going. And he actually missed the second last Coney Gree and left me in front going to the last, and that's why Jack had missed it. What's to take out of them? I don't know, Johnny. I think Coney Gree got injured. Sizing John ended up with a leg injury.
He got injured as well.
Yeah. And Jack Adam was probably a perennial runner-up horse anyway, wasn't he? Yeah.
So you're chatting away in the middle of the back straight going...
And he turned into the back, and Nico de Bumble is starting to roll on Coney Green, and David Mullins said, "Oh, he can't keep going." My reply was, "He will."
You can talk to each other in the middle of the race, like, is it shouting at each other, or is it just a...
Oh no, she's only...
You can hear everything.
He's there beside you, like. And yeah, but I mean, some people will respond, some people won't. Depends.
I actually think horse racing, in terms of where it could go visually and in many ways TV, digital and all that,
Camera is mic'd up.
I think it's nowhere near where it could be. I think the sport is...
How would you feel about that?
Well, like, say if you had one race a year where you had to kind of give some sort of a commentary on your own horse, just like, it's almost like a novelty thing, but it will be unbelievable entertainment, because now it might be a Mickey Mouse race in Laytown or something, but in terms of the visuals of horse racing and where it could go, it's nowhere near with HD where it could be. I don't think TV ever gives us a good enough version of, like, where football is, where other sports are. Racing is miles behind.
Yeah, but football are only covering a pitch that is 100 metres by... What? What's a football pitch?
It's like 100 by
140 by 100 is a GA pitch.
Punchestown is 2 miles round, like. I mean, it's some difference trying to put cameras on Punchestown and put cameras on Crow Park.
But even we'll say the difference. Remember when the fog was in and they brought the roving camera? Like, that produced an HD experience that I thought was amazing. And it only came in.
I thought I was on the Stena Voyager or one of them watching it was going up and down that much, but the camera they had in Ferryhouse is brilliant, and that's going to be in Punchestown. That is a great camera.
Drone coverage as well could be.
Drone coverage could be, but what's the issue with drones? I don't know. Drone coverage, I think that's the best shot to watch a race, actually. Is from overhead, and you can see it all playing out in front of you, lads moving into gaps, how wide somebody is, how tight somebody else is. Definitely an overhead shot is a brilliant view of a horse race.
Yeah,
but
I think the movement that's happening.
Yeah, you can get a picture of the race.
And what about being mic'd up? Would you be for or against the idea of being mic'd up live?
I'm probably antiquated. I would be against it. I'd have no interest in being mic'd up. I've never worn a head camera on my helmet either.
Have you been asked to? Is it something you turned down?
I have been asked to. Yeah, I've never worn it.
Yeah.
If I'm keeping somebody a bit tighter than I should be, I don't want anyone else seeing it.
Okay.
That's. Well, think about it. Like, I mean, the dark arts of any game. You really going to expose them?
Yeah.
No way, I'm going to wear it anyway.
Patrick Mullins had, the Snapchat kind of
glasses
in
from schooling,
yeah, he rode them schooling. So can you imagine if like every jockey had that in a race, and the horse you back, you can basically watch exactly what your jockey's doing throughout the race? That could easily happen.
I have enough lenses in my goggles already. More.
Everybody in the room obviously got that, but a lot of people listening at home and watching won't understand. This is an absolutely amazing story of technology saving your career. So you got a kick which broke a cheekbone. Is that what happened?
Broke me cheekbone and eye socket, and had double vision in my left eye for a good while. And
raced on.
Yeah, I did a road a couple of times with it. Then got a fall one day, and it was going to be the end of the road if I kept going. So I had to get it fixed. The worrying thing about it was not known. Could it be fixed? And then Ian Flitcroft, who was...
Can I just bring you back to the very start where you said I never raced when I wasn't 100%, and now you're telling us that there were times when I had double vision in one eye. But I just as a point of information, but go on. Sorry.
Well, physically he was fine. But
physically I was fine, yeah. But when the left eye was closed, I could see perfectly. It's like a lad walking off from the pub. No, it was went to see Ian Flitcroft then in Fitzwilliam Square in his clinic there, and he found a lens, a prism that would work. Now, he'd never worked with jockeys, and he asked that I wear protective eye covers, and I said I did, and he said wear goggles. So he found a prism that could be attached to the inside of the goggle, and then I went to see Claire Sheehan in the Eye and Ear, and she attached the prism to the inside of the goggle, and that was great. It worked. I was driving home in the car, looking out through the goggles like that, and everything was great. Could see no double vision. Down to Jessie's the next morning, schooled over the hurdles, and I felt like I'd won the Gold Cup. I could see perfectly straight. Yeah.
That's mad.
For the first time ever.
For the first time ever, yeah. Probably everyone keeps saying it improved it. Kind of ironic the year I had them after it. So it was thankfully worked out great.
Any long-term worries with the eye then? Or?
No, Ian told me himself that he said the eye is very, very slow to heal, and like driving a car or walking around, I'm still 100%. And even now, if I was just canting a horse around the gallop in Jessie's, I wouldn't pull my goggles down. I can see perfectly. It's just when the adrenaline gets going and in the heat of a race that you would get a little bit. But no, I'll keep wearing them anyway. But not long term, it won't. He thinks that in long term it could correct itself and become all right.
We're going to talk about the actual racing coming up at Punchestown. We're going to go through the card in a little while. So if anybody has any questions for us, you can use the hashtags that are up there. OTB Punchestown, hashtag go to town, hashtag go racing. Do you know yet what you're going to be riding this far out?
So Willie, kind of block enters everything for Punchestown, but Willie, to be fair to him, does bring all these big guns to Punchestown. So we will be well represented in pretty much all the races. I think the hardest part for me will be trying to figure out which one to ride. This time of year you don't work them probably as hard as you would back through the early parts of the year.
So you don't know which is in the best form.
They're all mad fit, they're well, so it can be difficult to find out, and usually the form book or your own interpretation of the form book is the best way to go.
Yeah. when you were, just to go back to winning the national, how did you pick the winner from the platoon of entries?
I started at the top and worked my way down. I thought pair of brown eyes with 11 stone 5 with the £10 penalty for winning an ace had to be a Gold Cup horse to win. I didn't think he was, so that put me off him. I thought the same for Total Recall, so I put a line through him. I thought that Capella Bourgeois probably had a chance if mentally he would take to the occasion, so I had a maybe beside him. I thought pair of brown eyes was improving with 10-8 in his back, so he was high on the list. Say Jersey was a novice. Bello Mom had a little bit to improve, but with 10 stone was going to have a chance. So, that's the way I worked it out. You probably start with 7. You work out what you're not fancying, and narrows it down, and then you make a decision. But it's not. There's no art or science to it. It's logic and trying to figure it out. And sometimes you'll be right, and sometimes you'll be wrong.
Those races, the top class handicap chases, have they become so good now that you nearly have to be a novice to win it?
I think you have to be unexposed, be it that you're a novice or not, but you have to be completely unexposed. I think if you've won a couple of good races, the more runs you have, the more exposed the horse becomes to the handicapper, the more he sees off him, and the more chance the handicapper has of getting him on the right mark. So, yeah, the unexposed horses is where you have to go. You're taking a chance, you haven't got the experience, but when you have the experience, you're exposed, and the handicapper probably has you.
Unless you're Tiger Roll.
Yeah, but then again, you could argue the handicapper was lenient on him. And that's the benefit of hindsight. You look at it and you think, when you look back, yeah, the handicapper probably was lenient on him.
He's probably a freak as well, just to be
he's incredible.
From Try and Hurdle horse for all those years ago.
But it'll be interesting to see what the handicapper does next February. Will he actually run him off 170? What's he have him on 172? Like, will he? He's pushed him to 172. But is he going to go next February and think, well, 172 is his mark, but actually we'll let him in off 169? Will he have the balls to back up his decision? What do you think? Will he?
No, because surely it's a massive marketing thing.
It's changed a lot, though.
It's not a marketing thing. This is racing. He's supposed to be a BHA employee. It's nothing to do with marketing. His job is to get every horse to finish in a line. It's not to market racing. Let Entry, ITV market it. His job is to get them all to finish in a line.
But there'll be pressure brought to bear, right? Because imagine if the owner was to suggest, I'm not going over there if it's at that mark.
Let that be his choice. He's already suggested he wouldn't be going. So, but if the handicapper is going to be a handicapper and try and make them all finish together, he has to make him race off his right mark.
I think he could take a favourable view of if he'd won one over fences. That was maybe a shade disappointing with the weight of history on the shoulders of the race for him to go back for 3 times in a row. And they do give you a bit of leeway in the national. I think he should be running the Gold Cup next year. I don't see why not. Genuinely, he has a mark that gives him a chance.
I'd run him in the Stayers Hurdle.
Again, he'd have every chance. Yeah. The performance he produced at Navan was totally extraordinary. There was no way, as unfit as he was, that he should be winning like that against Off You Go. So he's just seems to be the horse in the fit of his health.
Aren't they going to do whatever they have to do to get him to the starting post of the national next year?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
I mean British racing, not the owners.
Yeah, what they wouldn't like to necessarily.
They won't say it.
See to Michael O'Leary, but I think they'll be fairly okay with his weight. I think they'll do their best to get him in the race without taking the piss, basically.
What do you think?
I think they'll be under a lot of pressure to be straight about it.
Okay.
I can't see the 250 odd British trainers being ecstatic with their handicapper if he cuts the Irish horse slack because they want him to run. I don't think that's the way it'll work. This is England that we're talking about.
I know, but a 3 times national attempt is global news.
By an Irish horse.
Yeah.
In England.
They'll try and claim it somehow, you know that.
Was there a divide among the jockeys over what happened, or were you all in the one hymn sheet what happened in the race at Cheltenham where they gave the ban for the 3rd and the 4th place finisher, which I thought was one of the greatest jokes of all time, really. I thought if this is the way racing is going in this country, we're absolutely screwed. And I remember the morning of the race, the headline story was Cheltenham trying to cut down on fatalities. This is the day of Cheltenham Festival, the biggest festival, and they're on about something that to me really should be a minor issue. Horses die. Yeah,
but Johnny, it's a completely different media in England. When we were still on Tiger Roll here and giving Tiger Roll the plaudits and the credit he should be getting, in England they were talking about up for review. And that's a different It's a different mindset. We're exposed to Irish media, Irish outlets, the Irish angle we're putting on it. In the UK, speaking to the people in entry 2 days after it, Tiger Roll was history. He'd won. Now the focus was on the one horse that had been sadly injured, and that's just the media in the UK, the way they can spin it, the power they have to spin things. Were we happy as a whole about the decisions in Cheltenham? I don't think that ethically for racing you can encourage people who are going to be placed to pull up. I don't think that's right.
But like they're horses. Like you'll have that media you talk about, and you'll have people who, you know, they might have their family pet at home, but they'll happily eat the pork that they get from Lidl, but they won't think twice about like giving out about a horse dying in a race. I think there's an awful lot of stupidity in terms of these horses being treated a lot better than a lot of humans. In terms of how they're mollycoddled in life, they do what they want to do. If they don't want to jump a fence, generally they'll refuse.
The only problem I had with the thing in Cheltenham was the horse that finished 3rd and 4th were both examined by the veterinary officers after the race, and both found to be normal. So then it was only the stewards took it upon themselves. In the case of Declan Navarre, he felt the horse was going well enough to jump the second last and last fence, which he was, and he finished 3rd. In his opinion, he was right. The vets then checked the horse out, and the horse was post-race normal. 100%, no problem, no issue. The stewards should never even looked into it. The biggest cock-up they made was given in them days, went down to Portman Square, and the whole thing was overturned. The only winner out of that was there was no winner out of it. It was just a total cock-up, the whole thing.
A heap of losers.
Yeah.
But the jockey was right, he kept going. The horse was perfectly fine after the race, and the stewards made a big hullabaloo about nothing.
Bear in mind now, you know, JT McNamara suffered death because of an injury he sustained at Cheltenham. There was never any talk at that stage about getting rid of the race for amateurs, yet there was talk of getting rid of the race for amateurs when a horse died. I just can't have it.
Seems like the BHA kind of lost their way a little bit there for a couple of months. So,
but in terms of British racing going forward, I'd worry about that. They're getting very, very paranoid about the animal rights stuff.
All right, if anybody has any questions for us, you can stick your hands up as well. We'll get a mic out to you as well. We're going to get to part 2 of the show in just a couple of minutes' time. But I did want to ask you one question. Album photo, it looks like Willie was saying Paul's going to ride him. Yeah, is that when you have a quiet word with him and say, oh, you're lucky there, I'm going to beat John Kenboy? How does that conversation work?
Conversation with who?
How does the conversation with Willie and Paul and is that a...
No, start again, Jerry. You have to lose me, sorry.
So that decision's just made, is it? That's Paul's ride?
Like, I mean, if you want to go up on a horse,
you get to ride him again.
You're fairly sick if you got chalked off him, to tell you the truth. So I always assume Paul will be riding him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And conversation, as in what conversation?
What horse you're going to ride?
Well, it just leaves Kenboy and Bells Hill. So we'll see how they're going, see which one is working well.
And you won't make that decision until the last minute?
If longer you can leave it, the more information you have, hopefully the better chance you have to get it right.
Has Kenboy gotten the credit he deserves for that kick he has at the end of his races, which is fairly extraordinary for a chaser?
Yeah, I think he got first run on fast ground in Leopardstown, and I think getting credit for kicking away from Balco de Flo, who hasn't run a race all year, is what he did in entry.
So you think he maybe doesn't look quite as good as that, or he's...
I don't know. I mean,
Punchestown will tell us more.
He's won 2 falsely run races.
So you got a freebie at entry?
I pretty much hacked around. I felt to me like I was hacking. Maybe the others didn't. I thought I was going slow. And you would expect a horse that is a grade 1 horse to be able to quicken from the back of the last off the pace I had gone. I most certainly would.
That's when your in-running commentator would have been Handy O'Ruby, be like all the way, oh yes, happy days. Yeah.
And in this
you want to make this all up for your benefit?
Yeah, exactly.
No, the viewer at home.
Does that happen? Is there a little bit of psyching out going on sometimes with in the middle of a race? I've loads to go here, lads. I'm doing fine.
Oh yeah, of course you would. You'd be telling lies. What else would you be doing?
A straight yes and a straight no, straight off the bat from the two lads. We're getting to the truth. All right, tonight is all about the Punchestown Festival, which features 39 races, 12 Grade 1s, and €3 million in prize money. It runs from the 30th of April to May the 4th. You can book your tickets now on punchestown.com. Punchestown, it's your kind of town. We're going to take a quick break. All right, you're welcome back to part 2 of the show. Yay! Please give it up for our second segment guest. It's Johnny Murphy and John Duggan. Johnny, how you doing? John. This might be officially the most Kildare show we've ever done. We've now got
up the dubs.
This is like we're in a majority for the first time ever. Johnny, how you doing? Your racing background is multi-generational. Your dad was a racehorse owner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so farmers from Rathangan. So I grew up going to race meetings all over the place, really. Dad used to have the Go Racing in Kildare badge, so I kind of tagged along with him the whole way. I was kind of, I'm the youngest of 6, but I was kind of the late lamb amongst them, so I got sent off on those days with him. So yeah, since I can remember, and he's always been, he's always had an interest. He's been very lucky. He's had plenty of winners. He had one horse called Taking Steps, who was third in the Guineas, trained by Noel Meade, a filly. He had another one, Barton, who actually fell at the second last fence, broke its neck in the National, the Irish National. The story goes he was coming with a run to win, but I don't know whether that's true. That was before I was born. And then when I was kind of in school in Newbridge, he used to have kind of one or two with Kevin Prendergast over the years, and he's been quite lucky. He always had a winner there, so I grew up kind of from the age of kind of 11, 12, going into Kevin's yard for a while.
A mix of National Hunt and flat then, so...
Yeah, mix, yeah. He was mainly flat, kind of mainly fillies with pedigrees to try and, look at, trying to have a couple of brood mares at home was the end goal, but he was lucky enough that offers kind of kept coming for once when they'd either pick up a race or that. So, yeah, that's kind of where my interest came from.
And the Punchestown Festival, I was right about that earlier on, about it having a special part in Kildare kids when you're growing up. It's important.
Oh yeah, massively. Like, from when young age, I was the runner at their tables going in and out, and I used to get all the spare change when they'd have winners and stuff. And then from my time in secondary school, looking to mitch off school and go out on a Friday, chasing different types of fillies and mares, obviously. But yeah, so that was... that was our kind of growing up, and I was in boarding school, so I used to have to fake notes back then to get out on a Friday. So it was good crack. Still is.
Yeah, John, what are your Punchestown memories?
Going to the ATM too much. Interestingly, we were talking about like potential jockey cams and that kind of thing. There is a thing on YouTube of Many Clouds won, I think, the 2015 Grand National with Trevor Hemmings. He was trained by Oliver Sherwood, and I think it was Leighton Aspel in the saddle, and you actually saw Many Clouds win the Grand National at Aintree, and it was just incredible sight that when you look at a horse race on television, it does not compare in any way to actually what's going on. Like, you don't see anything in front of you. Like, there was a stage when Many Clouds was winning the races, there's nothing in front of him. He just obviously can hear what's behind him, and he just has a sense of where he is in the race. And at Punchestown, generally, I'll be at the last fence, and you kind of see the jockeys come into the last fence, and you see them maybe trying to rouse the horse into the fence. And I always kind of would recommend to anybody, if they're going racing, to try and maybe just not have the normal vantage point of being in the stands or being at the winning post, to have a look around, especially because Punchestown is quite an undulating track. It's an interesting track. There's undulations to it, and the run from the back of the last is a pretty good run. So you can get strange results at Punchestown. Some horses can be over the top, some horses can be put away and come. Of course, it's a right-handed track. Cheltenham's a left-handed track, and that does have a factor as well. But I do think we've seen with Punchestown a huge improvement in quality in the last 20 years. I remember horses like Billy Gruff and Mahler winning the Gold Cup, and no disrespect to them, but since Ruby rode Imperial Call, I think we've seen a huge amount of quality horses come and win the Gold Cup with the feature race. Neptune Collage coming over from England. We had Sizing John, as Robbie was saying, winning 3 Gold Cups. Hurricane Fly winning 4 champion hurdles. So we've seen a huge amount of prize money go into it. I think the later starts are great. There's a sense of an evening feel good into nice, watch a Champions League game afterwards, with obviously all your pockets bulging of winners that we're going to give you this evening. So, but just don't go to the ATM. It's the only thing, a piece of advice. You're going to the ATM an hour into the day, you got your strategy wrong.
Yeah, hopefully that won't be the case. Johnny, before we get into the tips, I did want to ask you a little bit about syndicates, because you've got a couple of syndicates going, one with the rugby lads.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for my sins, I set up. We bought a Mason filly as a yearling, quite cheap, and it was a long road. So myself, Conor Murray, Keith Earls, Andrew Conway, and Mr. X. His wife still doesn't know he's involved. So the lads really just used it as a forum for abuse, really, towards me. We thought we'd had a couple of disappointments. We thought we were going to win first time out. Money was down and ended up being last. So that was an interesting one to explain to lads that have no clue about racing, wouldn't know one end of a horse to another. And she finally won 2 races on the trot last year, to which they continued to abuse me because why didn't this happen 18 months ago when we bought her and all this. But yeah, it's that one's a bit of crack. The lads actually really enjoyed the whole experience of it. In terms of going into the yard, she was in Kevin Prendergast first, and they loved that day in there, chatting about different routines, how things, what is specific to that trainer and what it actually takes to get a horse to the race course. I think that's the biggest thing for them, that they had no clue how much effort, what it takes, and then she's in Joseph's now. She's so they've been up there, and the operation, they can't get over what it actually takes to get a horse and what's involved in the whole thing, and they love it. They really do. And then I set up another one after that, which
for your sins.
Yeah, which is a bit different. We decided to go down kind of a bigger pot. So we probably have a total fund of maybe 180, 190k, and different horses come in and out at different stages. So we had a slow year last year. Ended up having a couple of winners towards the end of the flat season in Dundalk. We had a double on the card then in Dundalk late January. The Game of Life won, and Chess Grandmaster won a 2 mile there. So yeah, we've 6 horses in total now. Probably dropped down to about 4 or 5. So we might have a couple of runners next week.
And some you buy and some you lease.
Some we buy, some we lease. We currently own 3, lease 3, but we're looking to buy 2. So we'll probably have a runner in the Red Mills final on Wednesday on call. Probably he's a Flemingsford gelding. He's actually got a crazy eye. He's like proper white eye. You can see from miles away, and he wasn't sold purely because of that. He was second in a point-to-point to Trevelyan's Corn, who went to I think Paul Nichols, that was sold for 400 grand.
Right.
And they couldn't get a bid. He was only like 2 or 3 lengths behind him, and they couldn't get a bid in the ring for him. So we took him over, and he's been third twice, but he's going to be a fine staying chaser. Like, I think that'll be his main thing. And then
that's the line they tread out for big, slow, and monster truck.
yeah.
He'll be a fine staying chaser.
You know too well. Leads me in.
That's just keep handing over the door.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you a good.
Don't say that, because Paul Darmley's out there and he's one of the Syndicate members.
Yeah, well, now you know, Paul.
Yeah.
That's the real truth.
Yeah.
And that walleye, by the way, not a crazy.
So it is like, we had such we had a very slow start, and then to have those winners over the winter kind of got us back on track. And what the lads are saying about the prize money, that's huge. The prize money here, you're never running for, regardless of the race. An owner can take home 6 grand, 6.5 grand. Even finish second. It pays for more than its day out between transport, everything. So it is a costly business. Like, it's going to cost you in reality 20, depending on trainers, between 25 to 30 grand a year to keep a horse in training from start to finish. And to be able, as Ruby said, if you can win one, be placed a few times, it goes a long, long way. And the way we run it, it's just about keeping the money in the pot. So getting people to write one cheque and get that to go as long as you can and have days out.
Yeah.
Johnny, that's the most important thing.
This is definitely the way that most people will be able to access racing into the future, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely massive for racing as well. I mean, we saw the Irish Grand National on Monday. It really was the refuge of a small number of people, but we do need more people to get into the game. And if you look at social media now, and in terms of WhatsApp, you ask Stephen Ward how stuff can travel on WhatsApp, but between WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, if Johnny Murphy, or say if John Small gets involved in a horse, or if a footballer or hurler gets involved in a horse, he sends that all over very quickly. And when he sends photos from him being at the yard with the horse, it's massive free promotion of racing. And I think that's really, really important. I think horse racing Racing Ireland is conscious of that in terms of getting people into the game. Syndicates are key. It was interesting at the Curragh when they showed us last week the new owners bar. I think the one criticism of the Curragh is that the owners bar isn't very big, and it's almost like they're kind of saying, well, we're the kind of the top flat operation here. We don't have syndicates, but racing needs syndicates for it to stay. And I think National Hunt Racing certainly does for it to stay.
I think a bit harsh there. The Curragh is an amazing.
I loved it.
It is amazing.
Yeah,
you can't say now that whole ego thing is going to go from the Curragh. They're trying to get the locals back. I think they've been a bit harsh on there, Johnny. At least give them a chance till it's open before you knock them. Don't knock them before it's open.
I've written about 3 articles saying I didn't have a single criticism of it, but that was the one thing. That was the one thing people said to me, that the owners and trainers it is quite small. But no, I thought the Curragh was an amazing development.
I actually do think that's a valid point from a syndicate's perspective, because you get 4 AIR cards, and there's a bit kind of a stigma at the moment. It's about kind of sitting down and having a meal and a day. For a syndicate with over 6 people, it's not. It's about going, be able to be in a room together, have the crack. If you end up having a winner, to be able to socialise and really enjoy that. They've changed Punchestown now this year, that they have their owners and trainers bar where your 4 AR cards can go in there, but then they have a second room where people can go if they're just members of the syndicate. That's the most important thing, I think, from, if anyone, a racecourse. And I spoke to Evan at the Curragh about that, and they have a place quite well, I do think, because it kind of backs onto the champagne bar. So to be able to, they should be able to kind of have, and it's not about, I think Ruby's right, it's not about the prestige of being there, or it's actually just about enjoying your day together, because that's
about belonging.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Belonging. Yeah.
That's what the Curragh has to do. Make people belong again.
Yeah.
And that's the battle they're facing. If they need to get the people in Newbridge, Kildare, Athy, they need to get the locals to go. But this is a Punchestown preview, and we're rabbiting on about the Curragh.
Yeah.
We're going to get to Punchestown now, don't worry.
For example, there's a horse called Master Speaker, and I'm not really involved in it, but a few of my friends are, and we now have kind of caught a thing where we get a minibus, and we went to Laytown for the first ever time back in September. It was the 150th anniversary of the Laytown races on the beach. Beautiful day, a real experience I'm not going to forget. And the racing was ordinary, but it didn't really matter, to be honest. And we go to Gorham Park every year for the Highest meeting. Ruby, the winner this year. That is what it's about. And if you can get that, say, to Punchestown, if you get, we're going to get a minibus down at 1 o'clock, or we're going to arrange a few taxis or whatever, and and if you are in a group of people, and if it is a syndicate, then you're just going to enjoy being a part of it. You might wear the silks. That kind of that really kind of poignant story about Eddie Mack. And there was the poor man who died in the Berkeley tragedy, and the Schusters, and you see everybody that was there at Christmas didn't expect to win. I had a 50-1 winner, I think, at Leopard's 10. It was such a beautiful story. It was a story that actually got into the media. But you could just see they're all shouting and cheering and singing for the rest of the day. And you don't expect when you're part of a syndicate, because it's just a small investment, to maybe win something. But if you do win something, it's actually just more about the journey and the belonging, I think. Yeah.
That's the one beauty of Punchestown as well. The smaller owner does have a chance. There are races spread out. There's a national or local kind of hunters race as well, that the race that kicks off the festival, from what I recall, that means an awful lot to the local. You have hunter chases, and I think that makes Punchestown more of a meeting of the people, we'll say, than Cheltenham, which is obviously an awful lot harder to win at.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start talking about the racing then. So, John, I know you've been going through the card for us here to pick out some highlights. Should we just start with the Gold Cup? Does that make the most sense? What do you like here?
Well, I got to stay on Alboon Photo's side, because I was at Cheltenham. I'm not going to desert a horse that made my Cheltenham, really. So look, he's got a lot of speed. Sometimes his jumping can be a little bit iffy. He does like a bit of cut in the ground, but I definitely think he's improved this year. His figures at Tremor are very good. He showed a lot of speed to win the Gold Cup. And I'm not going to desert him, although Kenboy has been very impressive the last 2 runs, and just whether they've been false run races or not. You can't say he has been anything but impressive, but I'm not going to desert Alboon Photo.
To continue at the level that Alboon Photo was at for the Gold Cup, Ruby, would be fairly sensational. It's not automatic that a horse peaks in March and can do it again in April.
No, but it's because Easter is late, Punchestown is a week later, so it's given the likes of Alboon Photo a better chance.
To recover.
Yeah, he could have longer off after Cheltenham, which was before Paddy's Day this year.
Cheltenham
was early and Punchestown is late. So there's a a better chance of doing it. He could have longer to recover and build up again for Punchestown. So that shouldn't be an issue this year, the way they're falling.
And that's how that works. It's not that some horses kind of reach a peak and then you're kind of coming down off that high.
You try and peak horses for certain races, but you should be able to peak them 3 times in a year.
Okay. Even for a race that takes as much out of it. Okay, right.
Like his only other run was in Tremor on New Year's Day. He's only run twice this season. So
exactly, he's so lightly raced.
Johnny Ward, what do you think?
I was interested what Ruby said about Kenboy, because it's kind of fooled me once, shame on you, fooled me twice, shame on me with regard to him, that he's done that twice, where he produces unbelievable finishing kicks in staying chases. I don't think he missed, what I recall at Aintree, he didn't really miss a beat. I'd love to know what Ruby would ride if he did have the choice. I think I'd be with Kenboy marginally. It's very hard to see Anton else win it. But the fact that the two of them are there, I think this makes it a great race, because we've the Gold Cup winner and a seriously impressive winner either side of that. And I don't think Kenboy really has gotten the credit he deserves, because it's maybe what happened at Cheltenham.
Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the best line of form going into the race is definitely Album Photo. Kenboy's 2 runs, okay, he fell in the Gold Cup, and his 2 runs where he's won, he's beaten Road to Respect and Balco de Flo, who are nowhere near Gold Cup horses. I think the Gold Cup winner definitely is the best line of form going into the race, and for me, he's the one they have to beat.
Ruby, what do you think?
Especially if the ground gets a bit softer. If we do get, for some miracle this year, we get a bit of soft ground. Definitely Album Photo will be more suited by soft ground than Kenboy.
Kenboy, by contrast, as Robbie said, Kenboy would definitely be better if the ground was as it is now.
Yeah, and it's more than likely going to be as it is now, isn't it?
I don't really know. I know we've had a fair bit of rain today, but I mean the ground, I'd say it's been a difficult challenge for Punchestown and Ferryhouse. This has been a ridiculously dry, like 6, 8 months, 10 months even. I don't know. I'd say it's the fastest ground Punchestown.
Punchestown on top of this.
Ferryhouse did a good job, and Punchestown did the same job.
Punchestown has started weeks ago, water, and they're on top of this. They're not going to make a balls with like Leopardstown did and have a fall on top of them. They're ready for this. They've been watering for weeks.
What do you expect to happen in a race like this? I guess it depends on what you're on, obviously, but
it'll depend. The race will depend on what else runs. I mean, Monody probably will, would definitely Red come from the UK. You're looking for other front runners. What shape is the race going to take? But I would agree with Robert. The strongest line of form is the Gold Cup, and that's Album Photo.
And so, say for example, you were on Kenboy. Do you follow Album Photo around?
Album Photo's not a front runner, so you wouldn't really be following him. He hasn't made the run. He sat handily in Tremor, but he came from quite a long way back in the Gold Cup, so I doubt you'd be following him.
Okay, so would you try and tire him out a little bit early?
He stays incredibly well, so you probably wouldn't try and outstay him either.
Okay, so there's no holes in this. Well, how would you plot a victory against Album Photo?
Ring Paul down and tell him what I'm going to do.
Tell us, we won't tell him. We can.
No, go away. I'll know someone else.
Would you definitely ride Kenboy?
I don't know. I rode Bell's Hill in the Gold Cup, and I had no doubt about riding him.
He's no choice anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but in terms of Bell's Hill and Kenboy,
I got rode Bell's Hill in Cheltenham, and he never turned up and never jumped, and he pulled up. Arguably, he's the freshest of Willie's 3, and I had no reservations about riding him in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. So we'll see how he is during the week as well.
Okay, so that's clearly not a decision you've made just yet. Okay, well, let's move on, John. Where should we go next?
We should go on the Champion Chase. I think it's the first day. So I don't know if Min runs in this, but Min disappointed at Cheltenham and then was absolutely amazing at Aintree. So Min has set the standard completely. Duvan, I don't know if he'll run. Ruby Footpad has been disappointing this season. It looks like Min for me.
I think Duvan is running according to one thing, that Punchestown this year will have an awful lot of runners who have not run at other festivals, and it's one of the reasons why it's a special Punchestown, because I think Rich Ritchie has, as of a few weeks ago anyway, has had about 20 horses who just haven't run this season, mainly because of ground. And one of them who hasn't run is Duvan, and he's all these other young horses as well that could see action in Punchestown. But I think Duvan might be running, Ruby, is he, according to...
Yes, we just read Willie there earlier. He's been in training for quite a while. The ground hasn't stopped Duvan running. He got an injury, which is well documented, and his recovery is going well. It'd be a huge ask, having not run in 12 months, to go and win this with horses like Min, who's in the form he's in. Undersow ran okay in Cheltenham, but ran really well in the Tingle Creek. But but Min does look rock solid. Foot pad obviously burst in Cheltenham. That's not a great prep. And Cadmium won the Topham Chase, but wasn't good enough for Durasso in Navan before that. So yeah, Min is odds on, and he's going to be hard to beat. He's an official rating of 172, and that sets the standard.
Okay, so Robbie, have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, look, it depends on what Willie throws into it. And Min, I was hugely impressed with Min in Aintree. I actually fancied Min in the Champion Chase to give Altior a race, and it actually didn't work out for him on that occasion. But he's a very, very good horse, and I think he'll take plenty of beating it. Okay, where to next, John?
Well, the Stairs Hurdle's on the Thursday, so once again, is Sam Crow going to run in it?
No, he's not running apparently.
Is Betty Juju going to run?
She's in the Mayor's Hurdle as well, and that's where she went in Cheltenham. I would have thought she would be heading down that road.
Yeah, so, you have Bapome, who ran very well at Cheltenham. It's hard to work out. Bapome was the one I liked when I had a cursory glance at it. I don't know if Faheen will run again in it. Ruby once again will shed a better light on it, but Bapome each way would be the one that was in my head.
Is there any warrant in the entry footpad in there? Or is that just because kind of a backup?
I don't know.
Just
he ran in the race. He did. He ran in the race before he went novice chasing as a 5-year-old. And Noel Feely won it, and you know what I mean. Harry beat me and Nicholas Canyon, and I think we were 20 lengths in front of him. He could have finished third, but he was a long way back. I don't know if he'd run in that, but he has run in the race before. Obviously Faheen had a well documented heart issue after entry, and Willie's monitoring his progress. But it is a very open race, and maybe one of the mares down the bottom, if any of the three of them were to take their chance, they would look the ones to me.
Is this likely the last season we see Faheen?
He's pushing on. He's 11, is he? Yeah, he's 11. I'm not sure what tests Willie did on him and what the results were, so I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Do you get attached to horses like that who you have a long-standing relationship with?
You have huge respect for them. I have huge respect for horses, full stop. But you would have huge respect for a horse like Faheen, yeah.
And are there other ones over your career that you kind of have that similar kind of, like, obviously it's your job and there's a million different horses that you come across over the years, but are there some that you look back and go, yeah, that was good?
Yeah, of course there are, but probably no different than people. But yeah, there's certain horses you would, I suppose, if you have success with them or longevity with them, you get to know them better and you have more of a relationship with them. Same as people, I assume. Yeah, it's fair enough. Robbie, I guess Sizing John is kind of that horse for you, is it?
Yeah, definitely. He came back after he won the 3 Gold Cups, and the next season we were all geared to go back for a second Gold Cup, and he won the John Durkin very impressively, and then boom, it all came to a stop. So been trying ever since. It's nearly 16 months now trying to get him back, but hopefully we get him back next year. He's still only a 9-year-old,
right?
So he's a young horse.
I didn't realise that.
It's people keep writing them off saying they won't come back, but you're hoping they will come back.
Yeah. Johnny, do you have a tip in this one for us?
I don't think you can tip in this race. I mean, what's going to run it? I really don't have any idea. I could see Willie being tempted to run one of the mares in it, because he would like to kind of keep them apart. A lot of them are much of a muchness, really, horses in it. It'd be basically a waste of time tipping Anthony in it. I have no idea what's going to run it, and I doubt Willie has at the moment either.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah. There we are.
John Duggan, what's next?
Well, the Champion Hurdle is the fourth big race. That's the Friday. So once again, what's going to run is Bouvardere going to run. Classical Dream is entered, but as a novice. Sharjah is interesting, brought down by Bouvardere at Cheltenham, and you want to think the Morgiana Hurdle at the track earlier in the season, and he's definitely an improving type. So we need to see what's running. Is Lorena going to run? But Sharjah is a horse that I'd probably be on the right side of. But like everybody, it's better, folks, to be certain. I think the only race we're probably certain about at the moment is, before Ruby and Robbie give us the handicappers they're going to win, is Album Photo and Kenboy. So look, the one charge I'll be still on the right side of.
Yeah, okay. The bookies will be going non-runner, no bet, and these sooner rather than later.
Not sure about Punchestown really, but did you feel, Ruby, that Lorena, did she show her hand at Cheltenham, do you think?
No, I don't think she ran a race at all. I don't think she at any stage was able to travel with them. I think she ran no race. I never thought I was going to win. at any stage. I don't know. Maybe that's. I don't think she ran a race. No.
I think she's still very interesting, because if you take that run out, she'd be probably hot enough favourite for this race. Super Sunday as well. Maybe if he'd run the champion hurdle, he could have run well. But
probably would have been second if he ran the champion hurdle. Definitely. He'll definitely go here. He's no other entry for the week, and if he's alive and well, he'll definitely run this. He won it last year. I think Bouvardere will definitely come over and take him on. He beat Bouvardere in entry. I think he'll definitely come over. And I think he will, yeah. I definitely think he'll come over. He hasn't. What's he done this season? He won the fighting fifth, is all he's won all season. So
beaten in Kempton,
I think he'll definitely come over. Won the Mickey Mouse race in Sandown and won the fighting fifth. So I think Bouvardere will definitely come over, and I think Super Sunday, all being well, if he's fitting well, he'll definitely run. So, and then probably Mellon, he'll probably run. Will he run 3 or 4? Mellon Arena maybe.
Okay, we've got a €100 tip, €100 bet, from the Tote, which we're going to ask everybody to give us for the week. John Duggan, I'm going to start with you.
I don't know where he runs. I don't know if he even is going to run. I mean, once again, Ruby know more than I would, but I think Carefully Selected is a horse that I do like. I backed him in the Cheltenham bumper last year, and he got chinned by Relegate. I think he won last time out. He's kind of skipped Cheltenham, so Carefully Selected might run. He could run in the 3 mile novice hurdle. I don't know. But
I'd have thought that would have been his target, the Irish Daily Mirror novice hurdle on Tuesday at 5:30. I'd have thought that's where he'd be heading myself.
Yeah, so he'd be the one I'd be interested in. Carefully Selected. Obviously, he has been.
And what kind of a price do you think that will end up being?
I'm not sure. Probably, once again, depending on his well-being, I think he could be short enough.
Okay. So that's Carefully Selected for the Tuesday. Johnny?
2 from Joseph's, between us and them, is some good form. The Thursday in the Ryanair Novice Chase. I don't think he's kind of 6-1, but I don't think he'll reverse the form at Cheltenham. But they're hoping that he'll run well. He's 6-1, so probably too short. And then probably an interesting one, I think, is overpriced, is Fakir Ordiz. He's running. I know he's taking on the older horses again. He has to reverse the form if Classical Dream runs in there, who was extremely impressive in Cheltenham, but he is getting a small bit of weight. But I think at 16-1 up in trip, I think that's going to really suit him going forward. But I suppose 4-year-olds, it's a tough one for Frodo. But I think 16-1 he's overpriced for that race on the Friday.
Is that the Saturday race? Sorry,
no, Friday. So it's the novice hurdle Friday. It's the novice hurdle Friday.
Okay, so Fakir
2.5 mile.
2.5
an entry actually.
Okay, on the Friday. All right, Ruby, what have you got first?
I don't know. I'm trying to pick one in a handicap because you can't really say Mina's odds on. Album Fort will be fairly short. Classical Dream will be very short in the first. Maybe Get a Bird on Tuesday in the 3 mile novice chase. He hasn't ran since he ran at Christmas.
Get a Bird on Tuesday. Okay. Robbie, what have you got first?
I was going to go the same race as Ruby. I think Delta Work might be a bit of value in that, because I think he ran a very good race in Cheltenham and was probably a very good RSA, and I think he might bounce back to winning ways here.
How good was your horse? Did you say he was one of the best you've ever ridden or something?
Yeah, look, potentially he could be very, very good. Lost in translation, he could be that. He still has a lot of improvement to do over the summer, but physically he's a massive big horse, and he physically could improve an awful lot over the summer. And he has the pace, and he stays. So look, he could be anything.
Actually, I want to change. I'm only have to remember. Definitely the size want to run here, is he?
In the 3 mile, is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, I ain't changing the bet on you. I'm not backing against him.
All right, I might do the same though as well.
Yeah.
I know. I'll stick with Delta Work.
No, I'm not.
Roll along with him.
All right, so this is on Tuesday.
Definitely not backing against him.
Definitely decide.
First run over 3 miles for Definitely Decide.
I'd be a bit wary with that.
I know a lot of horses that want to try and further end up staying 3 miles, and Tiger Roll is probably a great example of it. But I'd just be a bit concerned about Definitely Decide now going 3 mile. He got outstayed by Lost in Translation over 2.5 in Dipper in Cheltenham.
No, he didn't. He went too soon. He pulled up. That's all that happened to him. He didn't get outstayed. He didn't half outstay yet. He didn't half outstay in the JLT.
Yeah, he just said you paid more boots than me.
Yeah.
This is why we have a market.
I'll have it on Stratum on Saturday in the handicap hurdle.
Stratum on Saturday in the handicap hurdle.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find that now.
Ballymore, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
5:35 Ballymore handicap hurdle, number 16.
There you go.
Listen to that one.
Well, theoretically, he was similar sort of horse to Sharjah. Sharjah is now 160. Stratum is running off 142. Maybe he won't be, but there's the potential for a lot in hand.
Okay. Johnny Ward, bit of pressure on you here to give us a winner.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad Ruby to get a bird for the 3 mile race, because he's also entered in the 2 mile race, and I think he will go for the 3 mile race. He's a forgotten horse in many ways. Needs to go right-handed. I think he's very fresh as well coming here. I tipped this horse up in the paper at 6-1 on Sunday. He's still 9-2. I think if he runs, he'll go off way shorter. Chassin Poursois in the race on the Thursday. I think he could be an absolute machine, and he'll go off favourite if he runs. He could go off 6-4. He's 9-2 at the moment.
All right, one last point to wrap this up. It's great that there is an end to a season like this where there's stuff on the line, where there's a trainer's title, where there's a jockey's title. In previous years, that kind of just drifted. It was kind of fairly obvious a couple of weeks out, a couple of months out. It looks it's fairly obvious that those titles probably aren't as competitive this year as they have been in the past, Ruby. But it's good that there is this stuff to talk about. It's good that Gordon Elliott has arrived as a rival for Willie Mullins. Sport needs that kind of stuff to talk about.
Every sport does. Even... for a long part of the winter, Rachel and Paul Townend were tipping away, and Paul has just edged away from her since Cheltenham. But sport needs competition. But everything then is cyclical, and I think you have to also be able to appreciate when somebody is on top, how good that they are, what Willie's achieved. Like, did people really appreciate Kilkenny instead of just knocking them for ruining hurling? Did they really appreciate the good team Alex Ferguson had instead of just knocking them for being too dominant? I think that happens a bit too.
Yeah, so we need to actually appreciate that.
Yeah, and even this Leinster team as well. They're incredible, and I'm a Munster fan, but they're an incredible outfit. They should be appreciated too.
And even Man City, who unfortunately are 1-0 up.
It's true. Bernardo Silva scored that.
That's Pep Guardiola you should appreciate.
Yeah, Pep we should appreciate. And we should appreciate our guests tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for them. There's loads of people who make tonight happen. It's a JP Gilburn production. My thanks to Barbara from HRI, to Sue, Louise, Johnny, Seafra and Paul, to Shona Draper from Punchestown, to the Alex Hotel for hosting us. And our amazing guests, please give it up for Robbie, Ruby, Johnny Murphy, Johnny Ward and John Duggan. Thanks very much, folks. Enjoy Punchestown.